Bosch Security Escort, installer functions. Okay, so as an installer, you're going to end up checking and modifying a bunch of things inside Security Escort. One of the biggest tabs that you'll go through is under Setup. The items that we're going to check and use under Setup is Show History, History Filter, Pop-up Trouble Filter, Transponder Communications, Transponder Current Status, Transponder Parameter Change, Receiver Configuration, System Preferences, Transponder COM port Setup, Remote COM port Setup, Remote Setup. Bosch Security Systems. Setup. Show History. Under Show History gives you a current running log as dictated by the history filter of what is going on in the background. As you can see right here, I have a bunch of unauthorized transmitters being reported to receivers. Bosch Security Escort. Setup. History Filter. So the history filter is kind of a unique screen because it gives you the ability to change how the history is logged for Security Escort. First off, the upper left hand corner here is different history threads. So this tab, this radial box here, is a history screen. The next one is what would go to the history printer. The next one is History Archive A. This is kind of unique because you see a lot of things are grayed out here. This is an automatic history that is saved in the background by default for engineering in case you run into any problems. This will also be the first file I ask for if you do run into a problem. Under History Archive B is optional and is not currently active, as there's no checkboxes at all. System Serial Port 1 and 2 allows you to stream your history out to a serial port to be recorded by a third-party system or show up on a monitor under a serial string thread. After you make any changes, you can go ahead and hit Save. Bosch Security Escort. Setup. Pop-up Trouble Filter. So the pop-up trouble filter is the pop-up windows that you get if you have a trouble. You can turn on and off whichever ones you want. AC loss, low battery, tamper are the typical ones, communication failure, and then tamper on the receivers themselves. You can consult the reference manual for definitions of all of them if you choose to add or remove more than just the common ones that are typically turned on. Bosch Security Escort, Setup, Transponder Communications. In Transponder Communications, you get the background of the history window. In the right hand side is where you can interface with the transponder itself and with the devices connected to that transponder. This typically gets used for interfacing with the receivers attached to the transponder. Or if you have a problem with a receiver, you can put it in or out of service. One of the things you can do is you can select what receiver, bus, and point type and what you want that receiver to do. Turn on the horn, a green light, or the red light. So in this case, we're going to turn on the horn. And then you can turn it off. One of the uses that you can use this for is if you are working with another person setting up a security escort system. It's very important that the receivers are plotted correctly where they are installed. If you accidentally switched the bus or installed a receiver in a wrong location or gave it the wrong address, it'd be very hard to identify in the system and would cause location difficulties. By doing this, it allows you to interface with the receiver to show that you are communicating to and from the receiver, and if you're working with another person, they can identify that it was installed in the correct place. Bosch Security Escort Setup Transponder Current Status. In Transponder Current Status, this gets used a lot to identify problems in the system. What you do here is you select what transponder. In this case, I only have one. But if you had multiple transponders, they would all be listed under there. At this point, you would go ahead and hit Reset Transponder Troubles, which means you send a reset to that transponder. Then you select Stress Test. What this does is this sends a net receiving map, out of service map, jamming map, tamper map, AC loss map, all these maps below, as a request to the transponder to basically force the transponder to have a lot of information, to give a lot of information back. This allows you to identify that you have good information going to the transponder and coming back from the transponder. All this information is live. So if you had an incident where a receiver went missing while you were in here, you would be able to see it immediately. Example of the no response bus 0.1 receiver lobby. Now immediately when that gets restored, that'll also go away. Now you have a restore no response bus 0.1. This is a very helpful tool in diagnosing what is going on with the receiver, if the receiver is working, and if there's any problems that you don't know about in the system. Bosch Security Escort Setup Transponder Parameter Change. Okay, so in Transponder Parameter Change, this is where you're interfacing directly to the transponder's EEPROM programming. This is where you could change certain values, but the only thing that you should ever touch in here without engineering's approval to change anything, because it will change the way that the system completely works, is the run silent. The option run silent makes sure that that transponder and all the receivers on that transponder do not set off their sirens. This is used almost every single installation, because if you have 124 receivers and you have one alarm, you don't want whatever and every receiver that heard that alarm turn on its siren. That could be very distracting. If you're going to use siren outputs for an alarm, I highly suggest using an alert unit to activate specific sirens. To change the value, you just go ahead and select or unselect and then hit Send Changes. Down here you have the transponder list. In this case I only have one, but if there were more than one transponder in the system, they would all be listed there, and again you would go ahead and select or deselect and hit Send Changes.